Today's topic, what's mine is mine, and what's yours is also mine. Welcome to another episode of TABLEscraps, in which we present a topic related to tabletop gaming and then have a brief conversation about it with the live audience. Let's not waste any more time listening to this weird intro music. Let's get right into today's discussion. Hey there everyone, and welcome back to another episode in our month-long experimental daily series, TABLEscraps. The series where I take a question that's been posed to us by a viewer, and then I discuss it with the live streaming chat audience. So if you want to get in on this, you feel free to join the chat during one of our recording sessions that are coming up, and we'll see where we go from there. But first things first, we need to find out what today's topic is going to be. And today's question comes to us from viewer Trevin Taylor, who asks us the following in-depth, insightful inquiry. Do I need it if you have it? When we try a new game with friends and it really hits home, the urge is to run out and go and get it. It's a wonderful game that speaks to us and thus certainly should have a place in the collection. But should I? If my gaming group has this game, maybe even multiple copies amongst members, do I need it? What about a close friend who seems willing to come over and play anytime? Does table hitting frequency come into this? A 6-hour epic your wife hates isn't likely to see a lot of plays, especially if you can't play it without multiple players. When does a game that deserves to be in the collection not make it into the collection? An intriguing question to chew on there, Trevin. And in doing research for this particular episode for your question, I took a look at my gaming shelf versus the games that I play frequently at my game groups and the games that I know are in the gaming library at one of the big regular gaming events that I go to in town. And I came to the conclusion it comes down to really how excited I am for the game. That's me personally. If I play a game that I know someone else has and I find I am super mega excited about it and I really enjoyed it, I will often find myself getting a copy of it sometimes because I never know if the opportunity is going to come up to take that game to a different gaming event where the people that have it might not be there. Might travel to another town, might take it with me to a convention, might have family members or go visit family, for a holiday season or something. So if someone else has it, it really still depends on how much I enjoy it. A lot of the big meaty Euro games, kind of like what you described, the big 3, 4, 6 hour ones that I don't think I'm going to get a chance to play with a large variety of people, those will usually not hit my own game shelf. I usually won't run out and get those unless I'm super mega excited about it. But the level of excitement I need ramps up and needs to exponentially increase. Again, it also depends on, to me, the price point of the game as well. If it's a cheap little card game and everyone I know has one, I'm probably going to go out and still get it because of the opportunities I know that I'll have to play it. Again, and if it's a more expensive game, that's also another determining factor. So really, how excitable I am about the game versus how cheap I am. That's really what it boils down to for me. How many people that I know have it, to me, honestly, isn't usually as much of a factor as those other 2 points. So that's just where I come from on this. But that is just one man's opinion. Let's go and find out the opinion of many other men and women who are joining us in the YouTube chat, who will probably, likely, most definitely be able to answer this question better than I can. Let's go! We're starting here with KabukiKid, who says, personally, if I really love a game, I end up buying it, even if it is owned by others in my group. My logic is that I can then also have freedom to play it at home with family or whatnot. I'm assuming that whatnot would then include like your neighbors or your pets, perhaps strangers off the street, all those who would not be in the family inclusive unit. And if so, I think that's great. More games for more people and pets, that's the way to go. So totally see where you're coming from. And I would say I agree wholeheartedly. Let's continue on with Stefan, who says, variance in your gaming group is important. Gaming with the same people all the time, then sharing is great. If you play with a lot of different people, then you might want to get your own copy. Stefan, totally agree. And the other thing that I have discovered about the variety in your gaming groups is that variety in your gaming groups seems to lead to more unique experiences more often. The things that happen to me while gaming that give me the stories to tell usually come from trying to play with a variety of people and places and events and different games and stuff. When I get stuck into just playing the same games with the same people over and over again, I don't have as varied and unique of experiences that sometimes I would be missing out on. So I totally agree with you that variance in your gaming group is, yes, totally important. Gazensha mentions, meanwhile, I have games purely for events that I'm the only person who takes games to. The events are annual, but they're useful in that context. Again, too, that's true. There are going to be events that only certain people in the game group attend. So even if someone else in the game group has it, it makes sense that someone else. Now, of course, we are missing an aspect of this that we should state, because we don't want to come across as just being, let's go buy all the games. It is possible to borrow a game from a friend that is not in your collection for an event. That's something that I have done and others have done. So sharing games between each other can definitely be something on the side of, yeah, we don't need to all buy the game because we can just share the communal copy that we have because we're friends, we're buddies. And even though I never give your games back and I keep borrowing more of them, we're friends, so hopefully that's water under the bridge. Which reminds me, I never got my copy of Camel Up back. Let's continue on to the next comment here. KabukiKid a good point. I also don't like missing out on the print run of games that sometimes rarely return. That is another aspect of this. There are some games that if you like them and you don't get a copy of them, then they are going to no longer be available once that print run expires. And the other, if I may come at this from the other side of the coin, the I don't know what side of the coin I am on. I don't even know what kind of coin it is. Maybe it's a quarter. One benefit of getting your own copy of the game is that if someone else in your game group has the game and you are depending on using their copy of it, what if they move away? What if they move away and take their games with them before you can get a chance to borrow them? And then you are left without a copy of Camel Up at all, and now it's out of print and you can't get it, and they moved away and they were your Camel Up connection. Now you're really out of luck. And it's sad. Zachary joins us to say, I have recently fell in love with Adrenaline, but my best friend / partner in gaming already owns it. I can't justify buying my own copy. Fair enough. If the person that you play the game with the most often is the person who owns it, yeah, I can totally see not justifying buying your own copy of it. The question to me really becomes, if there is an expansion for Adrenaline that comes out, and your friend does not have it, would you commit yourself to buying the expansion for the game, knowing that they have the base game copy, or would you wait for them to get the expansion for the base game? It becomes a pickle, it's a thing that you have to figure out. So I'm just curious, has anyone ever actually been in that situation? And if so, did you actually buy an expansion for a game that someone else owns? Or are expansions primarily just bought, by the people who own the game, because I'm not buying an expansion for your game because where will I store the box? Good question. Excellent question. Christian says, for me, it depends on how much I'm in love with it and the amount of expansions I have to buy since I'm a completionist. Here we have the expansions creeping up again. So expansions really seem to be the wild card in this entire topic here. The expansions are going to sometimes cause us to rethink our purchase patterns, I think, especially if we are, like Christian, a completionist who's going to have to go and want to have all of the game's components available to him in his collection. Let's continue on to Sasha, who says, for me, it depends on how much I want to own it. If it makes me happy and drool when the game sits on my shelf, even if it does not get played very often, I will get it. And I have to admit, there I hate to admit as well, but there is, at least to me, there's something to this. There's something satisfactory about seeing a game on your shelf, even if it doesn't hit the table as much as you want to, knowing it's available and you have the opportunity to play it whenever you want, and you could play it, especially if it's a game that makes you drool. There is a satisfaction that comes in that. It's part of the collector mentality. It's part of the, I think it's just part of the hobby. It can be a good thing that leads to enjoyment in the hobby. It can be a bad thing if it's misused and leads to other problems and conflicts with this hobby. But that can be said for any hobby. But I will agree with you, Sasha, that there is a certain satisfaction in that, at least for me as well. I share that as well. Putnam joins us to say, I only buy a game if I want to play in a group that doesn't already have the game. Same goes for getting rid of games in my collection. If I really like them, but don't see play, out they go. That is a very, very good approach to it, a good way to handle it, and takes a good, strong will. So I know I myself have gotten to the point, I think I've mentioned, where I'm starting to try to cull out games that cull games out of my collection that are kind of in the same boat. I don't quite have the tenacity at it as Putnam does, but I'm trying to make progress with it. And so if anyone else is kind of in that same boat where they've hit that point where they're trying to cull games out like Putnam does, let me know the techniques that you're using in the comments below, because any helpful tips would be really, really appreciated. Ethan, who says, the ability to play a game two-player is a big factor in buying a game, especially if others in our group have it. If we have to play it with more people, well, we might as well play someone else's. Very good point. He continues to say, also, games like Time Stories, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and a new swath of escape room games really lend themselves to having one copy shared among a larger game group. Ethan, I think that you are taking a really good approach here. I think that that is definitely a viable solution and a really good way to approach purchasing additional games. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little experiment with myself over the course of this summer. With all the hot games that are coming out at the conventions coming up, I am going to first ask my friends what games they're planning on getting. I'm going to see if there's any games that I know they're getting that I will have access to, that means I don't need to buy them myself, and I'm going to see if that leads to any changes in my own purchasing habits over the course of the summer. Maybe after the summer, we can regroup and compare notes, see what happens. CHGOE, who says, there's nothing wrong with supporting the folks who made the game possible a little bit more. Ooh, you hit me there right in the wallet. That's a good point. That is one other aspect that can be a way to rationalize buying your own copy of the game, to be honest. The more copies of that game that are sold, the more the designer and publisher of that game are going to be supported. Kind of like the argument that I kind of make for myself. There are certain bands that come out that I will always go out and buy their CD or purchase the MP3s off iTunes or something, just because I want to support that band. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to invest in them just because I appreciate their work so much. And that can be applied in this case directly to board games. I don't think it should be used as an excuse to overspend outside of our available budget, but I think it is definitely a healthy perspective on showing your appreciation and support for the board game hobby. And hey, speaking of showing your appreciation and support, I appreciate every single comment that gets posted in the YouTube comments below and also over on our Twitter and Facebook pages, where you are welcome to continue the conversation on this and the other topics we discuss over there. And I also super mega appreciate the support that Pair of Dice Paradise has been receiving through our Pod Pledge fundraiser. The support that we're getting through there is literally what's helping keep these type of videos coming. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Until next time that we get together and get to have a conversation, I've been Chaz Marler, who, along with our YouTube streaming chat, have been serving up some table scraps. Thanks. I'll talk to you again soon. Where will I store the box? Good question. Excellent question. best question ever. I asked it. It just comes down to how greedy I am at the moment. Now, not really. That's a lie. I just lied to you. I'm sorry. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore.